Well, it's that time again.
What time is that?
It's time to get naked.
Like all the way naked?
Well, keep your clothes on, but it's time for the Naked Party Time podcast, where we get real and raw about life, leadership, and love.
While having lots of fun along the way.
So what do you say? Are you ready to get naked?
Let's do it.
How do you deal with anger? What have you done when you don't agree on parenting decisions, and how do you settle that? And how do you answer the questions of injustice and suffering in the world? Those are just a few of the great questions we received from people for this bonus episode, episode 35 of the Naked Party Time podcast, which we are calling Getting to Know Y'all. Which I don't think y'all will ever sound natural coming out of my mouth.
No, it sounds so funny.
Welcome back, or welcome for the first time to the Naked Party Time podcast. This is our first ever podcast recorded from the great state of Texas, as we are now a little over 2 weeks into our new hometown. My name is Jeff Manis. I'm joined by my wife and co-host, my podcast queen, Sabrina. Can you believe we've been here over 2 weeks already?
No, I actually had to go, I opened my calendar and counted to make sure that was correct, because it feels like, I don't know how long it feels like, but it feels like it's been so much longer than 2 weeks.
Is that I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad
No,
thing.
I don't mean it in a bad way, but just, I don't know. It feels like we've been here a while.
Yeah. If you're watching on YouTube, we're recording from our bedroom in a little love seat that we have. It's a new little look we have going for us. Not sure if it works or not, but it's what we have for today. We're recording this on Monday, January 31st. It will release on February 1st. And we worked our tails off from morning to night for the first, 10 straight days we were here. And then we have every box unpacked.
Yes.
And almost everything hung or in its place. There's a few things left that we need some help on. We really wanted to get our house done before our daughter Mariah showed up for a visit last week. And we don't mess around when it comes to moving, do we?
No, we've done it not a ton of times, but several times. And we want to get in, get done so that we don't have to do anything.
Yep. It's our first time in over 15 years to move to a new city.
Yes, we've changed houses.
Did move a couple times there in Cheyenne. We received some great questions from a number of people, and we're going to do our best to answer them here. A couple of these questions we will just literally touch the surface on, as they deserve full episodes down the road. For this episode, you might want to listen to in a couple of chunks, as we are expecting it to be a bit longer, maybe than usual. We'll see where it ends up. Or a little podcast tip. I listen to almost every podcast on my list on 1.5 speed.
Yeah.
That helps a ton, speed things up a bit. And if you want a good laugh, I would highly recommend you listen to a little bit of our podcast on half speed.
Oh, my word.
It's pretty funny.
Sometimes we do it just to laugh. It's hilarious.
We listened to the last episode. We listened to the first part of it on half speed, and we were dying.
Yeah, we
It sounds
were dying.
so funny.
Someone told us to listen to Dave Ramsey on half speed, that he sounds pretty funny too. I don't know who wouldn't sound funny on half speed, but
I think I do it every once in a while just because it's hilarious. So since we already mentioned our daughter Mariah, she came for a visit, let's start with a question someone asked about our kids. They wanted to know more about them, and then they also wanted to know how you and I met. So let's start with our kids. Sabrina, why don't you share our kids' names and ages, and then we'll share a bit about what they're doing at this time.
Okay, we have 4 kiddos. We had 4 kids in 5 years. We don't mess around with anything.
We do not.
So Jonah is 20. He'll be 21 in May. Mariah is 18, and she's the one that's getting married, in 19 days or something. And she'll be 19 in May. And then Michaela is 17, who's counting the days till she turns 18 in May.
No, in April.
In April, sorry.
I
do know when she's born.
Those two are 11 months apart, and we're not going to get it. You can go to past episodes and hear the ongoing debate on whether they're 11 months apart or 10 months apart, as you claim. We'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
And we know I'm right. So go ahead and continue.
I'll just say this. Mariah was born on May 13th, 2003. Michaela was born April 8th, 2004. I'll let you do the math.
11 months.
10 months, 5 days short of 11 months. And then Jada just turned 15 in December. And so, yeah, it was quite the craziness for a while.
Yep.
But we survived. And so if you have little kids,
yes,
you will survive as well.
Survive. Isn't there a song, I Will Survive?
Yeah.
It's like what is it?
It's an old song.
I almost started singing it, but I don't know if I could get it right. So that's our kids' ages. Jonah did move with us. He's living at home and just got hired at a Zoomies clothing and skateboard store here in the area. That's where he worked in Cheyenne as well. This was a huge answer to prayer as he was really wanting to continue working for Zoomies, and having one that opened up nearby was just a huge answer to prayer. So that was awesome. Mariah graduated high school last May and is still living in Cheyenne. As Sabrina said, she's getting married later this month. She's a shift manager at a Starbucks there in Cheyenne. She's marrying Caleb on February 18th. It's just a small ceremony with immediate family only, and then a public celebration in July. She wants to continue working at Starbucks and has an interest in maybe owning her own coffee shop someday, which I fully support that decision with the understanding that I would get free coffee as her favorite parent.
You think so?
Yeah. Both free coffee and I'm her favorite parent.
Oh, okay.
We won't let her come on air to solve that debate. Michaela, our third child, she moved with us as well. She also graduated last May, a full year early. So she right now is working, just got hired on at the Buckle clothing store here in the area. She starts work there soon. And Jada is a freshman at one of the high schools here in League City. And she does have a full-time job right now. Her full-time job is to crush on Harry Styles, right?
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
That is a full-time job.
It is a full-time job. She watches every YouTube video about him.
Knows every song.
Yes. Has a couple of his records. She got a record player for Christmas.
Yep. Wants to go to his concert in Paris or something.
Oh yeah. Her and Michaela are going to fly over there by themselves and
that's
navigate
their big plan
that
for 2022. Is it Paris or London or something like that?
I think it's London.
We'll see how that goes. Yeah. We're going to let our 18-year-old and 15-year-old travel to Paris.
No.
Don't think so. So it's a little bit more about our kids, what they're doing. Mariah did just come for a visit, which was a first for us to have one of our adult children come visit us at a place we live. I did just use air quotes for adult because she's only 18. I remember being 18 and thinking I was an adult, but now I see why my parents questioned everything I did.
Hey, I was thinking we got engaged.
Let's not talk about that.
When I was 18.
Yeah, no, you were married when we were 19.
Yeah, 19.
So it's not much different. I mean, no. Mariah's going to be 19 in May.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. So that's our kids. As for how we met, Sabrina, where do we meet? How do we meet?
So we met in youth group.
Yep. Great place to meet.
It is a great place to meet. My family just, gone to this church for probably a year before your dad came in and became the pastor. And here he brought these two hot twin boys.
Whoa. One hot twin boy. My twin brothers.
Well, they look exactly alike.
No, my brother is definitely uglier.
And so of course I started flirting with them both. Cause you never know, right? You
gotta take chances on either one, right?
No, but we did meet in church.
We met in church, which is a great place, I think, to meet somebody. And, we did have, now it's no big deal, but then we were quite the age difference.
Are you going to share?
Nope. I was 2 months older than you? 3 months?
3.5 years older
3.5 years
than me.
Older.
I was 14.
I was 17. And then I turned 18,
2 months after we started dating.
2 months after we started dating.
We
couldn't really date.
Air quotes around dating because I wasn't allowed to be alone with him or go out with him.
We could only be at each other's houses or church events.
Until I was 16. But we were boyfriend-girlfriend in June of 92.
Yep.
And your brother came on several dates with us.
Yes, he did.
We were talking about that when
he was here visiting in Cheyenne.
Yeah, it was funny.
So there you go. It's a little bit more about our kids and how we met and who we are. We do share some of that on previous episodes as well. If you go all the way back to episode 0, we share quite a bit more, I think, about our story there. Someone did ask about our Enneagram numbers. The Enneagram is a personality profile that we personally use quite a bit. We enjoy it. I know the Harbor has used Myers-Briggs. Some people might be familiar with the DISC profile. There's a number of other personality.
There's so many.
Yeah. But we really do enjoy the Enneagram because as we understand it, it's more than just a personality profile. And it doesn't mean that others don't have this as well, but we love how it digs a bit deeper into motives and reasons behind behavior and personalities. The Enneagram really focuses more on that. There is a great book about the Enneagram called The Road Back to You by Ian Morgan Cron. I know you actually went through that book as a part of your small group, right?
Yes, I read it, and then my small group did it, and it was so helpful to learn about each other and then learn about if we were married, our husbands and our kids, and It was awesome.
God actually used, I read it this last summer. I put off, read it this last July. And we don't have time to share it here, but God used a part of The Road Back to You as one of the dozens of confirmations that he gave to us that it was time for us to resign from Element and head towards a new land that God had for us. Ian Morgan Cron just released another book called The Story of You, which I have not read yet, but it's on my list.
What's that one about? You know?
The Story of You.
Okay, we'll get back to that.
I looked it up.
I haven't looked at it yet.
No, I haven't either.
Okay.
It's just more in-depth stuff in the Enneagram.
Yeah, I like his writing.
Yep.
I think he has a podcast too on Enneagram, if you are into that.
Yep. So there are 9 Enneagram numbers. Each number has what's called a wing. It's basically your dominant personality type, and then your secondary type is your wing, which would be one of the other numbers to either side of yours. So let's say you're an Enneagram 2. If you're a 2, then you will either have a 1 or a 3 wing. So it's the number on either side. Then there's deeper stuff in it, numbers you default to in stress, in safety. Again, we can't go into all of it here, but we can share our numbers. So Sabrina, what is your Enneagram number and your wing?
So I am a number 9, wing 1.
A 9, wing 1.
I'm the peacemaker.
Yep. So a 9 is known as the peacemaker, the deadly sin. So Enneagram always shares there's like a title for it, the peacemaker, and then there's a deadly sin. It's the dark side of your personality, basically, which is deadly sin for a 9 is
a sloth.
Sloth.
Which is me to a T.
Which doesn't always mean laziness.
No.
You've shared before kind of more what it means, but
yeah, because I'm a really hard worker when I want to be, but let's talk about Sabbath for a second. When we first started Sabbathing, I really struggled coming out of Sabbath because it's doing nothing. It's resting. It's doing what brings me joy. And so I would want Sabbath to keep continuing because sloth is that. I can go to that where I don't want to do anything. And so then resting is not hard for me, but it's hard for me to get out of resting to do work. So it can be a good thing and a not so good thing.
So a 9 is known for avoiding conflict, but they also have the incredible ability, as you do, Sabrina, to see all sides of an issue.
Yeah.
Which makes it hard then to pick a side.
Yes.
So a 9 could be seen as indecisive because of that.
Yeah.
They are incredibly loyal, although sometimes to a fault, allowing themselves to be walked on if they're not careful. So there's the positive and dark side. They are very hard workers once they get started.
Yes.
But it may take a while to get started, right?
Yes.
Anything else about a 9, Sabrina, that stands out to you? I was going to share more, but we literally don't have time for this episode.
No, I think that describes a lot of 9s. There's tons
of social media.
Yes, I follow a lot on Instagram, which is helpful to just see other people like me, but also I'm trying to always pay attention to all the numbers just so I'm always educating myself. But no, I will avoid conflict at all costs.
It is really good to know, like even inside of our marriage, our family, like we know all of our kids' Enneagram numbers. It does help you understand what makes that person tick.
Right.
That part of their personality that might drive you crazy.
Right.
Is actually, when you learn how they operate, it can actually bring harmony into relationships, which is what the road back to you, the story of you, I don't know. I mean, imagine just dives deeper into.
Sorry, I put you on the spot.
All I said was a book came out. I never read it.
We'll read it and then we'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah. So Sabrina's a 9-wing 1. I'm the opposite. I'm a 1-wing 9. Type 1s are called the perfectionists because we're perfect. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. She's agreeing. A 1 can come across as overly critical or judgmental, but that's not their attitude. It's not their true attitude. A 1 genuinely wants to see people and things be the best they can be, and it comes across as critical or judgmental, but their motive is trying to help.
And yeah, I have that. I have a strong 1 wing.
Yeah.
That's me.
A 1 wants to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
They are typically rule followers, as I am, and they hold very high standards for themselves and for others. Someone once said, if you think a 1 is critical and judgmental about others, you should hear how they treat themselves. And that's because a 1 has what's called an inner critic that never stops talking. They can often feel like they are never good enough or haven't done enough, and their deadly sin is anger, and probably rooted in that inner critic.
Yeah.
Because that critic is always speaking, it's hard not to then default to anger. So, Sabrina, does that sound like me?
To a T. Here's where I'll give an example of like this, him being critical. When he's trying to help me do something, it comes across as critical. And I'm a little sensitive because I just want the peace. And so I feel like he's attacking me in a sense. So knowing this, knowing he's just trying to help me be the best, do the best, then I'm not getting offended.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do forgive him later.
Yep.
Not because he did anything wrong, but because I might have taken it the wrong way. Right. And so that's been, I think, huge in our marriage, that you're not being mean, even though sometimes it can come across that way. And so I'm trying to be aware of, you're just trying to help me.
Yep. So that's some of our Enneagram numbers. Again, the book called The Road Back to You by Ian Morgan Cron goes into awesome detail and depth on every Enneagram type. It's really, really good.
And there is a study guide, because I did do it with my small group. There's a study guide, and it has even more information in it. So it's a great educational tool.
Yep. There's a number of places online, if you're interested, where you can take an Enneagram test for free to see what personality you are. On Ian Morgan Cron's website, you can pay for one. It's like $69 or something like that. But it's the most probably in-depth test, and then it kicks back all the information you'll ever need about your Enneagram.
I think you almost need to read some type of book. It doesn't have to be Ian's.
Yeah, there's a number out there.
Especially for if you're a 9, because 9s think they're everybody, because we see all sides to things. So I can see how I can be everyone, which in all reality, we all have a little bit of all of them. We're not just dead set one, because God created us. He's all of them too. And so we are his image. But take the test and then dive deeper if you're interested in reading the book, so that you can actually learn, and you might see where you are. You have to think about the motive.
Yep.
What is my motive in doing this? That's how you answer those questions.
Yep, it's good. I did think it was funny, the 1's deadly sin is anger, and someone asked how we dealt with anger. I would say not very well.
How do you deal with anger, Jeff? He growls a lot, gets frustrated. Ask our kids that question in private.
Puff and puff?
Yes.
I don't have outbursts.
No, but there is a lot of vocalness coming out of your mouth.
Yeah, like...
Yes.
That
we can know from across the house Dad is mad about something.
I do. I control it well.
You do a good job.
Yeah.
You're not screaming and yelling.
No, or breaking things.
No, none of that.
I've done that in my past.
Yes, we
punched a hole in the wall.
Yeah, we may have a hole in the wall in another house, but it's more of the growling and huffing and puffing and the frustration noises.
Yeah, that's another podcast.
Hey, we're all a work in progress, right?
Yes, we are. Progress, not perfection.
That's right.
Someone asked what we are currently reading. I thought that was a great question. Sabrina, you're more of a reader than I am. I'm not a natural reader. I used to be a more natural reader. I read because I know it's good for me and my leadership.
Yeah.
I truly do believe that leaders are readers. And so I make it a priority in my life, even though I'm not natural at it. So what are you currently reading? And we both have goals for reading each year too. You can go back and listen to our goals episode at the end of last year. But what are you currently reading? What's your goal for reading this year?
So usually I just make it 25 books. I think I got to 27 books last year. But
Aren't you special?
I am special. Do you see how that kind of came across rude? I'm not going to take offense to that.
That was being sarcastic.
I'm just kidding. I have never been diagnosed with ADD, but I'm pretty sure I have ADD. So I read several books at once. A lot of people, I don't know if you do that, but I'm reading 3 books currently on my Kindle. One called Named by God by Casey Van Norman. She lives in this area, so some of you may know her from Texas. And then I'm reading a book with some other ladies called When Striving Cease. It's by Ruth Simons. New to me author, but I'm really liking it. And then I'm reading another book suggested by Jeff's mom called 2 Hours to Freedom, a simple and effective model for healing and deliverance by Charles Kraft. So all very different books. I think that's why I can read all of them at the same time. I always do a bunch of devotionals all at the same time as well. It just helps me keeping on different topics. I like it that way.
So Sabrina's reading 3 books. I'm reading 4 actually.
Oh, you're amazing.
I want to do one more than you.
You're amazing.
I'm not reading. I can't do it. I'm reading 2, and I like reading one book and finishing it, but it's another story for another day. My goal is to read 24 books this year. I read 19 last year, 22 the year before, and I'm off to a horrible start. As our rhythms of life have just been tossed around like crazy.
Yes, I'm ready for a routine.
Yeah, we don't have much of a routine still at this point.
That'll be a ways off.
But I'm currently reading a book called Messy Truth by Caleb Kaltenbach. He's a pastor. It's a follow-up to his book Messy Grace, which I read last year. It's about being Christians in churches that lead and serve inside the messiness of grace and truth. It focuses, the books do, on the topic of homosexuality as the lens for the teaching. But the teaching applies to every area of life. I have thoroughly enjoyed these books, highly recommend them. Messy Grace, Messy Truth. And then I'm also reading an autobiography by Kirk Herbstreit called Out of the Pocket. Kirk is one of the personalities from College Game Day on ESPN. I saved that book and only read it during Sabbath, and don't read the other books during Sabbath. So reading answers another question we got as well. Where do you get inspiration? Someone asked. I assume that means inspiration for sermons or ministry ideas. That's how I'm taking it anyway. So I do get a ton of inspiration from reading, whether that's reading books or blogs, articles, even social media, and definitely scripture. I have more ideas than I know what to do with. I'm also a sermon junkie, so I've always been inspired by listening to sermons. When I work out, I listen to sermons or leadership podcasts. I get inspired by just being outside. Like almost every time I go for a walk and listen to a sermon or listen to worship, I'll always come back with some kind of idea for a blog, a leadership lesson, a sermon, whatever it is. So Sabrina, any ways you're specifically inspired?
I'm inspired by Jesus in the Bible.
Oh, aren't you holy? I thought you were going to say you're inspired by me. You missed your chance to suck up.
You're just below Jesus.
Okay. So you're inspired by Jesus and then Jeff. Two J's.
I don't know. I'm not a writer or
you're not looking to be inspired. Really.
No. So
but you do share great stuff.
Well, and I think it does come from the devotionals I do, the books I'm reading.
Yeah.
Like I am constantly reading and learning.
You're always sharing something on social media, usually on your stories about something you've learned or challenged by. Yeah. And it's usually from a devotional or a book you're reading for sure. You share a lot of great stuff.
Literally my Bible.
Yeah. I don't know how you do so many devotionals.
Oh, I love it.
You're reading 3 books at one time and probably 74 devotionals.
No, I'm only doing 3 right now.
Oh, only. You are so holy. Okay. Someone asked if we watch the news daily.
Heck no.
Yeah, my answer is not if we want to stay sane. It's just the news is nothing but doom and gloom. Sabrina, you rarely watch the news.
No, I follow a couple of like CNN and Fox on Instagram, but there's even times I cannot look at it or read it.
Yeah, it's just depressing, or it causes anxiety.
Well, we're humanly not
We're
wired
not wired to receive so much information.
all this information. And so for me, because I have a tendency to have anxiety, it is just better for me to stay away from it. Like, here's a silly example, but I had no idea the Chiefs were playing yesterday. And I wished someone a happy birthday, and they were like, "Go Chiefs."
You're like, what are they talking about?
And I was like, I asked Jeff, I'm like, is there a football game on today?
Is there a football game? Apologies to all the Chiefs fans out there.
I'm sorry, but I did not follow it.
Football fans in general. And apologies to the Chiefs because you guys blew that game.
Oh, snap.
So I stopped watching the news like on TV as much because it just drives me insane.
Well, who even knows what's real and true?
I don't feel like we really have news anymore.
No.
Especially when you're talking about the cable news networks. And I know we might have somebody who's a reporter or something that listens to this.
You're doing a good job.
We're not saying that you're not trying to present the news. But take your pick, whether it's CNN, Fox News, CNBC, or any of the others. I don't believe they're not news stations any longer. They are curators for ads.
Yeah.
They are businesses, and they are vying for viewers, and they will repeat the positions that keep the most viewers that pay for the most ads. And that's just the sad reality about especially cable news networks. However, it is good for us to know what's happening in the world and in politics. So how do you insulate yourself from the polarized news of cable news channels while also remaining informed? That's the question I think we have to answer. And I'm not saying that this is the answer for everybody, but this is what I do. First of all, like Sabrina said, I follow several news outlets on social media, and then I will like and share posts from all of them fairly regularly, which keeps the social media algorithm from only feeding me one news outlet.
Oh, yeah. I forget about that algorithm.
For instance, like Sabrina, I follow specifically CNN, Fox News, USA Today, and BBC News, which comes from Great Britain, I believe. It's good. I want to follow that one because it gives you another nation's perspective.
Yeah, I would not have thought to follow them.
And I'll like and share things from all of those. And in so doing, the social media algorithm keeps each of them coming to my feed. So I hope that you realize, listener out there, if you're only reading, viewing, liking, and sharing Fox News, that's all the kind of news social media will feed you.
You're so smart.
Thanks. You're inspired by me, aren't you?
I am. I'm feeling inspired.
So everything on social media is algorithm based. It's why when you go to Amazon and search for that shirt you want, all of a sudden there's ads for shirts on Instagram.
It is kind of creepy.
Yeah. Sometimes I think you talk about it and it's on there.
Yeah.
So I would challenge you, even if seeing what other news outlets share makes you sick or angry, you need to receive the other side of the news story in order to get the full picture. But also you need to receive the other side just so you keep from only having one bias. And I don't care what you say, every news station is biased. Every single one of them. So that's what I do. I subscribe to multiple. I like and share them. Sometimes I'll like a post even if I don't like what the post is about, just to keep it in my algorithm.
Oh, that's smart.
So I also subscribe to a daily news email from a place called The Dispatch. They are a digital media company that their mission, it says, is to provide engaged citizens with fact-based reporting and commentary on politics, policy, and culture informed by conservative principles. So the daily email gives you a paragraph summary of about 6 or 7 of the world's top stories, and then they provide a link to go read more if you want to know more. But it gives you a synopsis of what's happening in the world without being bogged down by all the craziness.
I don't even think I couldn't do that. It's just too much.
They also share different social media posts, in-depth articles. It takes me about 10 minutes tops to read it every day. And some days I don't read it if I get behind on my routine. But it's just bite-sized chunks of the insane world in which we live, which I like that. Instead of full articles, it's bite-sized chunks. If you want to know more, you can. I also like that the Dispatch is informed by conservative principles, but it's not a part of just blind support of, how many extreme news channels are just blindly supporting their party or whatever. The Dispatch, while they are more conservative, is not afraid to call out conservative leaders on issues, whether it's personal issues, the way they're living, talking, acting, or whether it's policy issues. And I feel like that's lacking in a lot of news outlets today. I feel like that's lacking in a lot of Americans today. The ability to actually, push back on leaders from your party. I think we have a lot of blind support in our two-party system. We've demonized the other side so much that we're willing to support a party member blindly, especially if that member holds tightly to a couple of our core values. We'll just support that person no matter what they do, what they say. I'm getting off track here. I did a whole bonus podcast last year called Politically Homeless, which is often how I feel in the political world. That podcast is right in between episode 18 and 19. You might want to listen to that if you want to know more about where I'm coming from politically. A couple of great follows online as well. It's a place called All Sides, ALL Sides, All Sides. They track how far left and how far right news outlets are.
Oh, wow.
And then they show you how left-leaning and right-leaning news outlets are covering the same story differently. And it's amazing how even the headline itself is worded completely differently by the left and right outlets in order to tip the scales of the story to their position. It's crazy. Another follow, and they have a podcast as well, I highly recommend. It's called The And Campaign. And is the ampersand sign, not the word. They are a Christian organization that is neither Republican nor Democrat. Their mission is to educate and organize Christians for civic and cultural engagement that results in better representation, more just and compassionate policies, and a healthier political culture. One of their mantras is too progressive for conservatives and too conservative for progressives. So their podcast is fantastic, as well as their social follows. I highly recommend it. Sabrina, anything else you want to add about news?
I just think you got to do what you got to do. I know for me, there's times I can get on Facebook and it is too much. My chest starts getting heavy. I can start feeling anxious, and I know I just have to get off. So I post a lot, but I'm not necessarily on there a lot because it just is, it's so depressing and sad and confusing. And so you got to do what you got to do.
Yep.
But most of the time I'm clueless, and I like it like that.
I try to stay informed, but I try not to get sucked into all the drama of the news.
Yeah.
Someone asked a great question about deconstruction. If you don't know what that is, it's received a lot of attention recently as some higher profile Christians came out and said they were no longer Christian. They had deconstructed their faith for whatever reason. Usually deconstruction happens around issues such as evil, pain, and suffering in the world, moral failures, or spiritual abuse among church leaders, and really how the evangelical church has responded to LGBTQ issues, race issues, or different things in the political arena. That's a very broad generalization. I think we've always had people who grew up in the faith or even claimed to have faith that ended up deconstructing and becoming atheists or non-evangelical. It's just now we have a term for it. And now it's more noticeable because someone can post about it on social media.
Yeah.
And 10 years ago, even, we didn't have that. So this person asked the question, without using the Bible as a source, how do you answer the questions of injustice in the world and suffering? This person has a loved one with questions like those of an antagonistic unbeliever, but they're seeking real answers. Questions like, I just don't think I can believe in a God who sets us up to fail. This person was referring to gay people who were, in quotes, born that way, and people raised in other religions who'll be sent to hell for believing the wrong thing. That's a common question, by the way.
Yeah.
This is massive. It's a massive issue that we don't have time to provide answers for today. I'd love to do a whole episode on this maybe one day, but it's going to take a ton of research to do. There are a ton of great books out there that can help with questions like these. The Problem of God by Mark Clark, Christianity for People Who Aren't Christians by James Emery White, Confronting Christianity by Rebecca McLaughlin, Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis, and The Reason for God by Timothy Keller. I've read all of them, highly recommend them. I did a whole sermon series at Element called Why I Struggle to Believe in God, because sometimes it's really, really hard. That was in the fall of 2020. You can go back and watch or listen to that on the Element website, elementchurch.life. I would just start here by giving this advice. If someone you know and love comes to you with questions about God, faith, the Bible, and Christianity, even if they seem to be deconstructing their faith or antagonistic about the faith, the best thing you can do is let them do it. Not in a laissez-faire kind of way, but in a loving, I will walk with you kind of way. You don't need to get defensive or afraid, and you don't need to know all the answers. Sometimes I don't know is the best answer you can give. Mm-hmm. I don't know, but I'll gladly walk with you as we try to find the answer. So I wish I could find the podcast where I heard this, but it was the biggest study done of its kind on faith and young people. And one of the biggest factors of young people walking away from the faith when they were out of their home was not the big bad world out there or secular universities. It was the fact they were not given the space and freedom to doubt. Young people who grew up in homes and churches where they were free to doubt and ask questions were the most likely to have a solid faith position later in life. The ones that did not have a safe place to doubt and ask questions are the ones who deconstructed their faith or left the faith. Isn't that fascinating?
That is fascinating.
To be honest, I think at some level, deconstruction is a good thing. Not when it leads to someone walking away from God or the faith, but deconstruction can actually lead us to a firmer foundation in the faith.
Well, it forces us to do all the research.
To know not just what you believe, but why. That's huge.
And to not hold on to your parents' faith.
Yes, but have your own. So let's be honest. There are probably some things in our faith that we need to deconstruct from if they are unhealthy and unproductive. For instance, if you have some unhealthy legalism in your spiritual family tree, you might need to deconstruct from that and rebuild on the firm foundation of Christ and his grace. I do think we need some deconstruction of how the American church has hitched her pony to political parties and agendas. That's a construction of the last half century or so that we need to deconstruct. Because Jesus is not Republican or Democrat. He's a king. And he said his kingdom is not of this world. He did not come to set up parties and policies. He came to set up a whole new system of living in this broken world. A system far beyond the political one in which we live.
You're preaching.
Does his kingdom speak into our politics and policies? Absolutely it does. But not every Republican policy is a Christian one. And not every Democrat agenda would Jesus support. In fact, there are some things in both parties that I think would make Jesus sick.
Yeah.
I'm going to get myself in trouble.
You are.
Before I ever start on staff at the Harbor, so I better stop there. Sabrina, anything you want to say there about deconstruction or people questioning their faith?
No, I think that's really good. There are things that the church has constructed that
we need to
be
deconstruct.
Yes, that
They're not healthy.
No, they're not healthy, and we have people out there that have left the faith because of the unhealthiness, and they're scared to come back, even though some churches have fixed it. They're scared to come back because of the hurt from the past, and that's very, very sad.
So I do think this the wave of deconstruction, while it has led some people to walk away from the faith and walk away from church, and more often than not, it's people have walked away from the church but not faith.
Yeah.
And they're looking for churches that will truly hold to the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
And not whatever other thing they're holding to.
Yeah, because we need the body.
But I think it's good for us to at least be willing. Am I even willing to look at what I'm holding to and deconstruct it if need be, if it doesn't match Scripture?
Yeah, put our pride aside.
Yes.
And be transparent and look at that.
Because I know it might be a shot to somebody, but you actually might be wrong. about something.
Not you, but other
not
people.
Me. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. That's a start to the talk on deconstruction, but it's a whole podcast or multiple podcasts. And there's people out there who are way smarter than me that are doing a great job speaking into that.
Yeah.
John Mark Comer speaks a lot into it. Caleb Kaltenbach's spoken into it. So you can find stuff out there. Our Aunt Jane, love you, Aunt Jane, if you're watching. She asked a great question. When you haven't seen eye to eye with each other over child rearing decisions, parenting decisions, how did you settle it? How did you settle it? And I would say we've never disagreed in our parenting, have we, Sabrina?
He's lying.
Never.
I'm not a liar like him, so I'm not gonna lie.
Because you're so holy with all those devotionals you're doing. How would you say we've settled it? I would say we haven't. Not well. Those are all phrases we could use. Mm-hmm. I think we probably both agree that parenting is the one thing that's caused the most conflict in our marriage.
Yeah, man. If we didn't have Jesus, I don't know if we'd still be together. Like it is so hard to parent. Like for us, 4 different personalities. Yep. And okay, here's the Enneagram. Yeah. I see all sides.
So you see
to everything. So even though the kid has done something naughty, I may be able to understand from my past, or I could see their point of view.
And I'm the rule follower.
And I'm a rule follower too. Like, but he's more of a rule follower. And so we just butt heads on certain children.
Yep.
And it's been very, very difficult at times.
Yep. We've had some financial conflict before. We talked about that on the podcast. We've had sexual conflict. Talked about that on the podcast. But parenting has been the biggest one by far. Again, I tend to be more disciplinarian. You tend to be more, how would you describe it? Fun-loving, likable.
I listen to all sides.
That is true. I hadn't thought about that description actually. I mean, I'm teasing you here, but
I know you are.
That fits. You do see all sides, but you tend to lean towards the good side.
And okay, and I don't like conflict.
True.
So, I'm the one that has to keep the discipline that we agree on, but is maybe let me finish. That he maybe puts in place more than I because I'm home with them or I am with them more. So then I have to keep it, but I hate conflict. So then. Or I'll forget because there's so many things going on. Like there is just sometimes I have forgotten they are grounded or forgotten they can't do this. And they'll ask me and I'm like, sure, you can do that. Yeah. And then later on, Jeff's like, why'd you let him do that?
And I'm like, no. And then they say, but mom said.
And I'm like, I forgot. It's hard to keep track of 5 people's schedules plus my own. And there's just a lot going on up in my head.
I'm not going to go there on that podcast.
So there's been some difficult times and there's been times where I don't agree. I think Jeff is being too harsh, but I also know I am way too lenient. I'm too soft. And so we both have to
admitting that.
No, I know I am. I know I'm too soft because I don't want to have to deal with the consequence. Yeah. And I usually am the one that has to deal with the consequence of whatever the kid got because I am the one with them more. Yeah. And so we have had a lot of conflict.
Yeah. For the most,
but
I don't want to paint a doom and gloom picture.
No,
here. For the
we
most
have
part,
compromised. Yeah. It's stretched us. We've had to talk things out. We have to be transparent and real and raw and share our feelings and go through the emotions, walk with the kid, deal with it. And
for the most part, we're on the same page.
We are.
But there's been some watershed moments where we did not agree on what should be done. At one point with one of our kids, I may have told you I'm done parenting with them and you are now in charge.
Yeah, on a couple of occasions you've
not
said
my
that
best
to me.
moment.
And I'm like, okay.
But we were at an impasse and I was like, I'm done. You are now in charge. So there you go. We still struggle. I mean, it's easier now. We have adult children now. Now we just talk to each other about what we don't like what they're doing. We don't have any say in 3 of our 4 kids really anymore. But it's been a struggle.
It's like I always say to moms, when your kids are 0 to 10, you do have control.
Yeah.
You're in charge. They
For the
mainly
most part,
listen to
yeah.
you. Like,
You can still scare them into obeying.
yes, you can get them to obey. You can help them change their hearts. But when they hit that preteen on up, it is like, I mean, Jesus should be in control the whole time, but it is like, Jesus, you have got, like, literally take the wheel. I do not know what I'm doing. I am out. There's no control anymore. It feels that way.
Yeah.
You still have control, but it does feel that way. You know, you can't just send them in the corner or spank them if you spank or whatever you did when they were little. You just
doesn't work when they're 16.
Everything changes, and every kid has a different personality, and so you have to be on your toes at all the times. And now you have social media and parenting and that. Like, we can't go back to our parents and ask for help because we didn't have social media. So I feel like our generation is the first generation in parenting our kids because it's so different. And every generation probably feels like that over some things, but parenting is hard. It's such a blessing, but it's just hard. It's constantly changing. Seasons are always new. No season lasts forever, but
All right. Someone asked, when you first knew it was a done deal and you were moving to Texas and thought about living in Texas, or what thought about living in Texas caused the most fear and dread, and what thought about living in Texas excited you the most? So we'll start with excitement. For me, outside of just the excitement of a new ministry, new people to serve and reach, I was very excited just about the new places to see and things to do. Being in the Houston area and only 30 minutes from the beach in Galveston, new places to kayak and travel. I mean, that was exciting for me. Plus, really for our kids, all the new opportunities for our kids to do things, see things, go places. That was big for me as well. Probably similar things for you.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I've only lived in Oklahoma for 22 years and Wyoming for 22 years. So Texas is not a state I ever thought I would live in. So I don't really know anything about it. And when I started like looking on Pinterest, what can you do there?
Yeah,
it is
so
like
much.
Overwhelming, all the opportunity, and we got a bucket list. And so now we get to discover a whole new giant state.
The thing that caused the most fear and dread, again, for me, we had a good thing going in Cheyenne. Yeah. In that element. I could have stayed there forever, and barring some major disaster, morally, financially, physically, or something, like, the church was going to be great. We were going to be great. We were in a groove. We loved the people. They loved us. So now the thought of stepping into something new that I had no part in building, something at the harbor that appears to be very healthy, going well, the thought of messing all that up terrifies me. Like, what if this doesn't work? I'm being real and raw here, which is the theme of our podcast. But I've told you, Sabrina, that I hope this isn't the case. But we very well could be the interim pastors here, and we don't know it. Yeah. That's just real talk, right?
Yeah. We don't know how long God will have us here.
We don't expect that to happen. We obviously don't want that to happen. But it wouldn't be the first time that a successor at a church isn't liked and doesn't last. So that's there for me. That's lingering there for me. The thought of leaving somewhere we loved with the chance that the new place may not work or that I'll mess it up, that is just always there. And part of that goes back to my personality dark side, feeling like I'm not good enough or not doing enough, like the responsibility is mine to make sure it all works.
The inner critic.
Yeah. But that's just reality. Like, we're stepping into something brand new with no idea if it's going to work. Yeah. So, anything
I don't carry
cause fear in you?
The weight you carry with that. That's not, I'm here to support you in whatever God calls us to. So I don't carry that weight. But one of my biggest fears was the weather. I'm like, I don't know what to expect. Yeah. I haven't lived in Oklahoma in 22 years, so I forget what humidity is like. I went back to Oklahoma every single summer almost. But I'm so thankful that God allowed us to move in January and kind of see what the whole year was like. But I was like, Jesus, am I going to be okay here? Is the humidity going to be too much? The heat going to be too much? Like, I love Wyoming and their weather. and we are spoiled there in the summer. And so Jeff has just kept saying we're flipping seasons.
Yeah, we are. Like in Wyoming, it's bitterly cold for 3-4 months out of the year, and you just don't go outside very much unless you have to.
Yeah.
Well, it's reverse here.
Yeah.
Like, there's June, July, August, September. It's blazing hot.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you have to be outside, you really aren't going to go, unless it's for recreation or something.
Right.
It's 110 degrees and the humidity is whatever percent it's at.
200%.
Yeah. Like you stay inside. So it's the same thing, just different seasons.
Yeah.
We're just flipping seasons.
So I just got to think about that. And listen, people, you need to be more positive about your state, because people have not been, they're like, oh, wait till you hear the summer. Well, that's causing me anxiety. I want to love it. I think I will. I've been surprised at how cold I've been in January.
Which is partly the humidity.
Yes, which I forgot
Makes the cold
what
colder.
it feels like. So that seriously is probably my biggest fear. Yeah. Jada's biggest fear is the bugs that are here.
We didn't have very many bugs in Wyoming.
No.
Not many at all.
We've had that one cockroach in our garage, but it was dead. And like, I have never seen a cockroach.
It wasn't like a dirty cockroach. It was like not one because we were living dirty. Got to clarify.
What kind of cockroaches
I think
are
it's
here?
a tree roach or something.
Okay. Well, whatever. It was dead in our garage.
It was one that lives outside. And
We've never had those in Wyoming. I've never seen one before. I'm surprised some of our kids' rooms didn't have cockroaches, but that never happened. So yeah, the weather is my biggest thing. So far, it's been awesome. But
Yep. Okay, someone asked along the same lines with us moving, what proactive steps are you taking to get to know the people in your new community? And you're talking to two extreme introverts here, so we aren't the greatest at asking how to do this. I would say this was part of the fear and dread as well, knowing all the energy it's going to require to meet and get to know new people. People have the wrong perception of introverts sometimes. It's not that introverts don't like people.
No, I love people.
Yeah, it's that people don't energize an introvert. Being around people drains an introvert, especially when it's the necessity of meeting and engaging new people. I actually enjoy people, as you just said.
I do too.
A lot.
Yeah.
Especially in circles of people I already know, love, and trust. I love being around people. But as an introvert, it's draining, not energizing.
Yeah, but even with the people you love,
it's
like
still draining.
even Mariah, I did not realize how tired I was yesterday until she left and I started doing things, and I'm like, I feel exhausted because I was with her the whole time. Like, so we love it, but it's tiring.
Introvert and extrovert is not about whether you like or dislike people. It's about what energizes you, and I think people misunderstand that. So, I wouldn't say we were doing anything proactive.
Well, I feel like social media has really helped us this time around. 14 years ago when we started Element, we didn't have social media. And so I didn't expect so many people to message me and be excited about us being here and wanting to get to know us. Like, that never crossed my mind. So I have loved engaging online. Slowly, that helps me as an introvert get to know people. And so like now when I meet you in person or see you, I'll know something about you. So I don't have to have that awkward conversation where we're talking and then I got nothing left to say because I'm not very good at asking the questions. And so I feel like social media has been a huge help this time around. But it is a little scary to think about once we get into the harbor, like
everybody's new to us.
We want to know you. But it's impossible for us to know everybody intimately, and it's not even healthy for us to know everybody intimately. So I think social media will be a good thing, but
so we aren't like avoiding people or closed off to people, but we're just never going to be naturally proactive at that. When the time does come and, our sabbatical is over, we do want to have people, especially staff and board members, into our home. We have some intentional relational goals that we are working on to develop our own community of people, our own tribe, if you will.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I can't think of anything that we're doing in social media and just being, when we see people engaging in conversation, Like, we're not doing anything super proactive just to get out there and meet a bunch of people in the community. It's just not ever going to be us.
That's what I told Aunt Jane the other day. I was like, she's like, is it okay if I hug you? And I said, yes, you can always hug me. I just might not be the initiator.
Yeah.
So there's
That's
some
good.
things I just might not initiate.
Yeah. That's good.
Because I know it could drain me, but
Yep.
I will always receive it.
Yep.
And I will,
That's really good.
and I will always be honest and say, no, I can't do that. Or
Yeah.
yes, I can do that. So I think sometimes the enemy tells other people that I'm too busy or I don't have time for you. And I want people to know you can always reach out to me and ask me, and I will always be honest and say, nope, I don't have time for that. Or yes, I do. Like, let me answer for myself, because I may not always initiate, whether it's the hug or the reaching out. But I'm here. I want to receive it. I just need to work on
That's really good.
the initiator.
That's very good. That's
Thanks.
awesome. Let's see here. Last question. And this is going to be the longest podcast we've ever done. Last one. And I love this question. This person asked, I'm studying remembrance in the Bible and how it impacts our walk with the Lord. This month I'm in Deuteronomy, and it repeatedly says in some form or fashion, remember, you were slaves in Egypt, and the Lord your God brought you out by his mighty hand. So here's the question I've been dying to ask since I first listened to your Houston We Have a Problem podcast. In Deuteronomy 6:12, after all the talk about the new land you will possess, it says, when you eat and are satisfied, be careful not to forget the Lord who brought you out. So now that you've been in this new land and you're beginning to eat from it, have you and Jeff talked about how to insulate yourselves against forgetfulness? How do we remember to remember? And what difference does it make? So I don't know if you want to start with anything. You want me to just go?
You go first.
So personally, I pray Deuteronomy 6:10 through 13 every single day before I read my Bible.
I didn't know you did that.
Yeah, I started doing it months ago, prior to coming here, before we even knew this was the place we were coming. I started praying every day, God, would you please bring us into the new land that you have for us? May it be a land with large, prosperous cities we did not build, houses stocked with goods we did not produce. All those things that it says there. I just basically read the scripture and prayed it. Now that we are here, I've changed that. And I'm now thanking God for the new land that we're in, but I'm focusing more on verse 12.
Okay.
And I'm saying, when I'm praying this before I read my Bible, Lord, when we have eaten our fill in this land, may we not forget you, the God who rescued us, provided for us, and blessed us with this new land. May we worship, serve, and fear you alone, which is verse 13. Along with that, I just intentionally try to say thank you a lot.
Yeah, me too.
To the Lord. That's just in general in life. Whether it's something I love about our house or something happening with one of our kids or at the church, just thank you, God, for putting us here, for providing this, for doing that, whatever it is, just saying thank you. As silly as it sounds, if you're standing in your kitchen and you love your kitchen, Lord, thank you for this kitchen. I love it.
Just not wanting to take anything.
Yes, don't take anything for granted.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good.
And then something that we did before we moved here that will help us is we had a professional wood custom sign made for the entryway of our house. It's 4 feet wide by
it's giant.
36 inches high, something like that.
Yeah.
It's big.
Yeah.
But on it has the entire passage of Deuteronomy 6:10 through 13 hand painted on it. It's beautiful. Somebody in Cheyenne made it. We had them make it. But we're going to display that so that every time we walk in or out of our house, we are reminded that we did not provide this new land. God did. And I hope we never, ever forget that.
No,
this was not our doing.
No. And I love that we have that sign, because it will be such a good reminder. And
a conversation starter.
Yeah. And for people that walk into our home, and for our kids.
Yep. So this is one of the reasons they built altars in the Bible. It helped them to remember. And I've often asked, what altars do we have today? We don't have very many.
Yeah.
Because, nobody's going to go out and build an altar. That's right. Your homeowners association will
frown on that.
Yeah, frown on that. But I do think remembrance is incredibly important in our faith. We never want to make idols out of something or worship what God did. But we do need to figure out ways to remember and worship God for what he has done.
That's good.
So anything you want to add there?
No, that was really good. You're so inspiring.
Good throwback.
I think I hadn't thought about, like you saying you prayed that every day. I'm going to add that to my truth statements that I go through every day so that that scripture is just constantly in my head.
Yeah. I pray two scriptures before I start reading my Bible every day. One is from Psalm 119. Open my mind, open my eyes to see the wonderful truths in your instructions. I pray that, and then I pray Deuteronomy 6:10-13, and then I read my Bible.
I like that.
So I'm
gonna copy that. I know, almost.
So I think that was most of the questions. I think one or two we didn't get to there, but we will still be dropping a new podcast this month. But because we did this bonus episode, we're going to move the date to actually Valentine's Day, February 14th. And on that episode, we're going to talk about not romance and marriage, but singleness. Singleness is not a season to endure. It's a status to celebrate.
Yes.
And that podcast is not just for those who are single. It's for us married people as well to hear it and to live it.
Well, that's one of the things the church needs to deconstruct
from. Exactly. And we'll get to that on the podcast.
How they talk about marriage.
Yep. So if you enjoyed today's podcast, or even if you didn't, we'd love to hear from you. You can email us your comments or questions to hello@jeffmanis.com. You can always reach out on social media. Just look up Jeff Manis or Sabrina Manis. You should be able to find us on there. If you're a new listener or if you've never done it, it would really, really help us out if you would like, rate, and review the podcast wherever you're watching or listening from. It would also be awesome if you'd share the podcast on social media. That would help us greatly reach more people. Sabrina, why don't we end like we always do with our marriage mission? We are united in Christ, unstoppable with Christ, and unbreakable because of Christ. Now it's time for you to go get naked
and party.
We'll see you on the other side. You've been listening to the Naked Party Time podcast. Join us next time as we get real and raw about life, leadership, and love.